In parallel, we're investing today $2 billion in new military assistance for Ukraine.
Welcome back to Unfiltered. If you're new here, my name is Dan, and thanks for subscribing. We're going to start with Canada's billion-dollar promise and then end in a few minutes with a home invasion story that has Canadians asking if our system is completely broken. All right, Prime Minister Carney's announcement wasn't just a one-off, by the way. Since 2022, Canada has committed nearly $22 billion to Ukraine. That includes military aid, financial assistance, and humanitarian support. Let's break that down right now with Prime Minister Carney.
In parallel, we're investing today $2 billion in new military assistance for Ukraine. $800 million of this will help strengthen Ukraine's arsenal for the most urgently needed defense equipment, drones, ammunition, armored vehicles. And we had a discussion today about specifying and targeting that assistance where it will have the greatest impact, and we will do so. We'll also fund over $200 million for the joint production of defense materials in our two countries, particularly advanced drones using Canadian suppliers. And another $165 million for critical multilateral efforts, including, again, enhancing drone resources, as well as more money for humanitarian assistance to support civilians affected by this horrific war.
Let that sink in for just a moment. $800 million for drones, vehicles, and ammo, $200 million for joint production, and another $165 million for humanitarian programs. On the global stage, Canada looks rich and generous, but back here at home, the numbers tell a complete different story. Before we go any deeper, if you want to keep this channel independent, you can always drop a super thanks below. Every bit helps us keep digging into the real numbers that Ottawa and the legacy media don't want highlighted. Because while billions flow out the door, Canadians are living with a federal deficit that's ballooning year over year and a national debt that's climbing. And here's the kicker. According to the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, Ottawa has seen an explosion of six-figure federal salaries. Let me put that into perspective. In just a few short years, the number of bureaucrats making over $100,000 has skyrocketed into the hundreds of thousands. These aren't frontline workers that you and I are going to see at the hospital or fixing our roads. These are paper pushers in Ottawa, and their raises are being funded by us. While families are cutting back in Canada, Ottawa is adding more perks, pensions, and more people to the payroll. And the crazy part? Even as services slow down, the salaries, they keep growing. Canadians are looking around and asking, what exactly are we paying for? And Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre admits that cost him votes in the last election, but he's not backing down. He says cutting back the bureaucracy is the only way forward. And honestly, that message is now starting to hit home more than ever.
Then how do you make sense of the 4,513 votes that you lost by in your riding?
Well, the reality is it's a riding that is over. It was very simple. I was very clear that we would be cutting the federal bureaucracy if I was Prime Minister. And it was an Ottawa riding with a lot of federal public servants who disagreed with that approach. And they ran a very aggressive campaign, particularly the public sector unions did, to defeat me on that basis. Now, some people might say, well, it wasn't the best idea to run on a smaller federal public service when you're an Ottawa MP, but I had an entire country to represent, and I had to be honest with people. Like, I guess I could have done what the Liberals did, which is hide their plans, but I didn't do that. I said very clearly, we're going to have to eliminate federal public service jobs. That's the only way you bring down taxes and deficits. And I was honest about that, and the people in that particular constituency voted accordingly.
And Canadians are starting to agree. A growing share of public is saying we can't afford foreign aid at this scale anymore, while the economy at home is on life support. That frustration is now showing up in the polls. Now, before we talk about the new poll numbers, hang tight, because in a few minutes, we've got comments from Premier Danielle Smith from Alberta that sent shockwaves across the country this past week. All right, look over here. Look at this. Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives are pulling ahead yet again. And it's not because of slogans. It's because Canadians are frankly fed up with runaway spending and priorities that don't line up with daily reality. Abacus data found that nearly half of Canadians now believe Ottawa's spending is again out of control. And here's the kicker. This isn't just Conservatives saying it. A big chunk of Liberals and NDP voters in the survey are saying the exact same thing. The government's priorities are way off. People are worried about groceries, bills, rent, mortgage renewals, and instead they're watching billions being sent overseas. That disconnect, it's fueling one of the biggest shifts we've seen in Canadian politics in years. And when middle-class families start saying enough is enough, you know that the ground is moving. If you believe Canadians deserve the unfiltered truth, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming up next right here on Unfiltered. And that brings us to Lindsay, Ontario. This story will blow your mind. A story that has people across the country shaking their heads. Let's set the scene.
Early Monday morning, a home invasion took place at an apartment on this street in Lindsay, Ontario. An altercation happened between a homeowner and intruder, resulting in both men getting charged. Kawartha Lakes police say a 44-year-old woke up to find another man inside his home and allegedly inflicted life-threatening injuries on the intruder. As a result, the homeowner is charged with aggravated assault and assault with a weapon.
Self-defense is very different to what we see kind of in the United States, right? It's not kind of like in this inane right to stand your ground.
So a man defends his home against a criminal intruder. The intruder ends up in hospital, and guess what? It's not just the intruder who faces charges, so does the homeowner for defending his home. If you think that sounds backwards, frankly, across the country, you're not alone. And it gets even better. This is where it all comes together, because the intruder, turns out he was already wanted by the police.
Police say the alleged intruder was already wanted for unrelated offenses and is now charged with break, enter, and theft, possession of a weapon for a dangerous purpose, mischief, and failure to comply with probation.
So this criminal that's wanted by the police breaks into this guy's house, this guy gives him a beating, and this guy gets charged. And the other guy gets charged. But something is broken.
Finally, one of the few times I can agree with the Premier of Ontario. Premier Ford flat out says something is broken. Pierre Poilievre makes it pretty crystal clear. Homeowners should have the right to do what it takes to protect their families, period.
It needs to be clear that if someone comes into your house uninvited to steal your property or harm your family, you need to be able to do whatever is necessary to stop them. You should be in serious danger if you go into someone's house illegally and try to harm them. If you don't want to be harmed, then don't invade someone's house and don't threaten their security.
And Premier Smith from Alberta, no sugarcoating. And frankly, she had the mic drop moment of the week.
To a incident, I believe, in Lindsay, Ontario, where a man is now facing criminal charges for defending himself from a home intruder. What are your thoughts on that situation?
Well, if you don't want to get shot or beaten up, don't break into people's houses. It's pretty straightforward.
That's not just politics. That's raw truth. What do you think, Canada? Do we need to revisit our laws and protect homeowners against home invasion? Drop your province in your comments below. Let's get this Unfiltered Town Hall started right now. And if you're fired up by what you're hearing, you can always support the channel by dropping a super thanks below or buying us a coffee from this link. Every bit goes right back into keeping this platform independent. So here's the big picture, Unfiltered. Billions are flying out the door internationally, ballooning costs at home, a public fed up with spending, and a justice system that punishes homeowners while criminals, well, they walk free quickly. It's all connected, and it's why the polls are shifting fast in this country. If you're new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next Unfiltered breakdown. And make sure you follow us on TikTok and in the Unfiltered Facebook group. The links are below in the description. And if you want more Unfiltered, check out right here. It's called What Canadian Media Won't Show You. It's right here on the screen. My name is Dan, and I'll see you in that video.